Performance begins when the lights come on. A community begins much earlier and may end much later. Before there is a stage, someone opens the door. Someone arrives first. Someone waits for the others, finds the missing chair, changes the plan, and decides that tonight is still worth attempting. In the rehearsal room for ICEBERG, the visible action is one body searching for a role. But another drama is already present, who makes the conditions in which that search can continue. We usually call the first part art. The second part disappears into the room. Rehearsal often looks like conversation. Underneath it is a distribution of permission. Who may interrupt? Whose uncertainty becomes a new direction? Whose exhaustion is treated as an obstacle? A group can sit in a circle and still depend on one person for the key, the schedule, the camera, the money, or the final decision. Equality is not a shape made by chairs. It is a repeated practice. Information moves, decisions can be questioned, and responsibility does not fall forever on the quietest or most available person. Then the lights change everything. On stage, proximity becomes intensity. Separate bodies appear to share one risk, one rhythm, one world. This is one of theater's great powers and one of its most convincing illusions. Intensity can be real without being equal. A powerful scene does not tell us who cleaned the room, who absorbed the conflict, or who could refuse the next rehearsal. The audience sees the event. The community has to live with the condition that produced it. Every experiment praises the courage to begin. Fewer experiments design the right to stop. What happens when a performer no longer wants the role, the image, or the story that the group tells about them? Can they leave with their name, their material, and their dignity intact? Exit is not the failure of a community. Sometimes it is the clearest test of whether participation was ever voluntary. A group that welcomes everyone but punishes departure has built an entrance, not a freedom. Doors can close a performance. It cannot close the account. After the audience leaves, there are files to return, equipment to carry, messages to answer, money to explain, floors to clean, and relationships that may not fit the final poster. This labor is not outside the artwork. It determines whether another artwork can begin without consuming the same people again. The most radical gesture may be neither a speech nor an image, but a schedule that shares the burden and an archive that allows disagreement to remain visible. what does a community owe its members? Not permanent harmony, not the promise that nobody will be hurt. It owes them conditions that can be examined: who decides, who maintains, who is heard, and how someone can leave. ICEBERG survives in the archive not because it gives one answer, but because rehearsal, performance criticism, and aftermath remain in tension. The real test of a community is not how intensely people gather. It is how maintenance, conflict, and exit are actually carried together after the light moves on.